Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and if you're joining me this morning, then you must be interested in the 2022 Audi A3. Today we're going to head out on a little bit of a rainy morning drive. I'm going to share with you my thoughts and experiences on the car after having it for about a week, and kind of how my feelings sort of progressed, starting off with this car and then kind of ending up here this morning. Brief little overview. The new A3 updated recently to include a slightly less powerful 2-liter turbocharged engine, but this model still rocking a 7-speed dual clutch automatic and quattro all-wheel drive. I'm actually quite a big fan of the looks. I think it's neat how it's kind of compact, but manages to set itself off from something more like a Jetta in the Volkswagen family, even though it is a similar size. I think all the lights around make the car look sharp, a little bit futuristic, still pretty classic Audi. At the end of the day, this is a pretty small sedan, but a fairly functional trunk here. I like having this net. You can put things in and drive a little more spiritedly without them flying around. And you barely see it under there, but there is a space saver spare, which is really big for a lot of people. They don't want to be stranded if they were to get a flat tire, which might be important with these 18-inch wheels. Not a whole bunch of sidewall, and as you're driving around Midwestern roads like this, a flat tire is unfortunately very possible. Pretty solid door feel. Getting in, taking another look at this dark brown leather material. It's kind of neat. It's not the most premium leather feel, but when we're talking entry-level luxury sedan, I think it's pretty fair. A little bit of a center console armrest, grippy cup holders. Down there you've got heat control, kind of between hot and cold for this back area. 2 USB-C ports, and not a whole bunch of headroom. I can't quite demonstrate to you here, but at 5'10", if I sit all the way back in the seat, my head is hitting, even though there are some slight cutouts for headroom, and it is a little bit better than something you might get in the 2 Series BMW. It's not fantastic back here. Knee room, however, is quite good. The cutouts in the seat allow for quite a bit of room for my knees, but I wouldn't want to spend a long trip back here, mostly because I can't sit upright. Seats do fold down, providing you 60-40 split. Actually, you can drop this and actually get a 40-20-40 split, which again, I think is pretty valuable. Nice lights that aren't going to turn on right now because the car is off. And check out these nifty door handles. You can kind of grab them from above like this, pull fairly conventionally, or get your fingers up below and pull from the underneath. I think that's quite nice. Even in the rear, Bang & Olufsen speaker grills. If you do want to see more on that system, check the link in the description. We did a dedicated review of the Bang & Olufsen sound system. I'll put the link in there. We also have a dedicated review for the fuel economy of this car on the highway, where it really did quite well. 40 miles per gallon is what we got on that. Really beating EPA's number and beating the other vehicles in this segment as well. Let's start it up. Kind of takes a second from when you press the button to when the motor actually comes on, but because it is a mild hybrid system, there's that strong 48-volt hybrid electric system that motivates the engine to life without an aggressive starter noise. It kind of just comes online. It's kind of nice. Interior design was one of the most striking elements of this car to me first. This one does have quite a bit of options. It's about a $37,000 base price after destination. This one's about $45,000. Oh, apparently somebody wanted to call me briefly there. I bet you it was a spam call picked up by T-Mobile's spam block. But anyway, the interior of this car I think is quite nice. You have this nice wood inlay, this nice kind of metally plastic right on top of it. Not quite a full chrome, but brushed. I think it looks quite nice. Got the two-tone, the black and the brown. Interior seems to make sense too. I will admit this is quite a bit of wasted space right here. This shifter and then just kind of all this blank space could be used for a bit more storage. And I will also say this rotary knob for volume is not only less convenient than, I shouldn't even call it a knob. It's a scroller that you have to touch with your finger, and you can click these buttons to change tracks and turn the system on and off. But I wish it were a knob that I could grab and actually turn physically, because Audi always had such nice clicks to their volume knobs. Everything, even these buttons, when you press them, everything has such a satisfying tactile feel to it. And I lament not having a volume knob there as well to turn, but it's also a bit far away, so if I'm sitting here as a driver, I'm very much expected to use the steering wheel, which does have a nice scroller knob to it. I quite like that. I like the wheel in general. It's a thin feeling wheel, a little bit not perfectly round, a little bit obloid, but it makes for a nice feel in the hands. This one isn't heated, unfortunately. I wish it were. Other than that, pretty functional interior. Got a little tiny bit of center storage area, and this actually raises up and locks and goes out, so you can get quite comfortable with your elbow. It's kind of a Volkswagen signature feature that I'm sure a lot of repeat buyers will be happy to see. Going to drive, engage this dual clutch transmission. When I first took this out for a drive earlier this week, wasn't super thrilled with it, and that's mostly because this 2-liter turbo engine, along with the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, don't make for the most luxurious in driving feel. It's not the most powerful engine in this class, and it's not the smoothest either. If you drive that BMW 230i that we had a few weeks ago, that motor is so quiet, butter smooth, docile, but also powerful. It's really impressive how they managed to blend both elements together, because when you're driving it in Eco Pro mode or something very calm, you almost think it's an electric vehicle. It's so quiet and smooth. This motor is not quite the case. You'll hear as we sort of drive around slowly, it's grainy, and then when you get on it hard, up high in the revs, it really sings out. It's certainly not something like a Ford 2-liter turbo or Chevy 2-liter turbo that sounds like a tractor motor, but when we're talking about a luxury vehicle and what else is offered by some of the competitors, I am surprised that this one's not a little bit more refined. But again, that could be the 7-speed dual clutch as well, which doesn't make for the smoothest driving experience. Sorry I had to get hard on it there again, get up to speed, but as much as we kind of applaud dual clutches for being so snappy and quick to shift and good for sports cars and sporty driving cars, I should say, for a luxury vehicle, it doesn't make the most sense to me. It's something that, yeah, maybe it might get a little bit better fuel economy. It's a more efficient transmission design, but I want a transmission that's going to be virtually unnoticeable. I want my luxury car to have shifts that you could barely even perceive as the driver, especially as a passenger. But this motor, what you get is you're coming in to, let's say, this roundabout here. I'm going to be cruising 55 miles per hour. Bring up my gauge here at about 1400 RPM. I'm going to lean onto the brake, start slowing down, and I feel the car downshifting through the gears as it slows down. I feel it and I hear it. Yeah, that's cool for a sports car, but not for a luxury sedan. On that vein of missing out on kind of what a luxury car should provide, a little bit noisier in here than I would like. You're not going to really tell today because of the water on the road, but during our highway fuel economy test, that was one of the first things I noticed, and one of the last things I noticed is the car wasn't refined and quiet as I would expect a luxury car to be. And yeah, this is more of an entry luxury car, and the ride is quite good, but it's just loud. You hear road noise, you hear tire noise. I was a bit disappointed by that. Switch up to dynamic mode here, down into S, and even though it's wet, kind of hustle it around this corner. Quattro all-wheel drive, of course, should make it very easy to accelerate out of here. Steering wheel weights up, and again, because of that smaller steering wheel, it feels good in the hand. But with this engine, it doesn't encourage sporty driving. It doesn't get loud in here. As much as I'm not a big fan of fake engine noise, I will admit that in something like the BMW, when you're in Sport mode or Sport Plus, it gets much louder inside because it's piping in a whole bunch of noise, or it gets louder inside because it's piping in a whole bunch of noise. And you feel that. You subconsciously, you're like, ooh, I'm really going now, even though it's just fake noise. No, the A3 is not really a sporty car, and honestly, it shouldn't be. The S3 exists for that. If you plan on doing sporty driving from time to time, just get yourself the S3 and be happy with that. Drive the A3 as a daily driver, commuter, luxury sedan, and that's where it starts to be really enjoyable. That's where you start really enjoying this big center gauge cluster screen. Look at this. Bring up the map. I've got a full mapping there, and I can hit view, make it even larger. That is really darn cool at this price point. And look at this beautiful Apple CarPlay screen. This is one of the most high definition, quickest responding, nicest feeling screens that I've witnessed in a car at this price point. $45,000 for this, sign me up. Now outside of that, you have a very good infotainment system as well. Not a huge fan how it locks you out of some screens while you're driving, some settings, but it's certainly not as intrusive as some other vehicles where they lock me out of my USB stick. That I find even worse. You know, this works nice. It's got a nice map even when you're just using the car's mapping navigation system. It's nicely contoured into the dash as well. I think it's very attractive. And it's within nice reach of the driver. Here again at 5'10", I can reach forward with my back against the seat rest and do what I need to do on the screen. It's not like some other cars where I have to reach way up and very much take my eyes off the road and get out of a driving experience to interact with the screen. And the rest of the car is comfortable as well. Like I said, you can get your elbows in nice comfortable positions. Where you put things makes a good amount of sense. I would like to see a little bit more center area storage. I think they could have maybe moved the stop-start up there and done something different with the volume knob and then really opened this area up to a little more storage, but that's a fairly minor complaint. Also, it's kind of strange to just tack the seat memory right here. I think they could have built that in a little bit better as well. But overall, I think this is a very attractive car on the inside and the outside at this price point. A lot of smart tech that works pretty well in this car as well. The rain sensing wipers are working well. The cruise control is a bit strange because if I set it here, actually let's get going a little bit faster. Let me set it again. Come on. Oh yeah, set button's on the side. 70.5 miles per hour is what it set my cruise to. And then if I bump it up, it goes to 72.5. And then to 75, and to 77.5. So you see it's these 2.5 mile per hour increments. And I find that so strange. I don't see that being something, I mean, it's a very kind of German car thing to do, but I don't see a lot of people here in the States appreciating that. It just makes for weird adjustments that you're not used to. I guess if you own the car for a while, you just kind of get used to that's how you have to set your cruise, but strange. It's just an oddity. But actually, I don't really mind car oddities. It gives them a bit of character. The other thing I appreciate is the sunshade here is manual. It really bugs me when you get in a car of this size with a very small sunroof and they insist on adding weight and complexity to have a power sunshade here. Like, come on, just let me open and close it. That's so simple. Some people don't appreciate that this doesn't fully block out the sun. I used to feel like that, but I've gotten over it. It does a good enough job. What it doesn't do is block out a lot of noise. Maybe that would make the cabin a little bit quieter if you could get a heavier screen over that sunroof. But I think the car is just a little bit loud in general. There's no double pane glass. The A3 excels at being a classy daily driver. Certain people are going to get in this and be like, why would I buy this over a Jetta? The materials aren't that much better and it drives about the same, so I'll just go to GLI or something. Volkswagen and Audi, they're not worried about people cross-shopping their products in that way. If you're the type of person who would think to yourself, oh, why don't I just get a Jetta over this? You're probably not the intended buyer for an A3 to begin with, because they know at the end of the day, you're going to talk yourself into something more sensible. An Audi, especially a smaller one like this A3, is a less sensible car purchase. You don't buy a luxury car because it makes sense. You buy it because there's an element of passion there and an element of just desire. It's a want. It's certainly not a need. And what Audi has done really well is they've made elements of this car satisfy that want aspect. You desire to have this car because of the way it looks inside and out. You want the 4 rings on the steering wheel and on the dash. You want these fancy high definition screens. None of this is necessity, but it's a desire, and that's the reason why you'd step up and pay more for something like this versus something like a Jetta, something like a Civic. Heck, you could get a very nicely equipped Accord and get more of most elements, most car elements, if you will. But again, that's not the purpose of this car. The purpose is to be a little flashy and kind of satisfy that jonesing desire, and I think it does a really good job at that. Wrapping up, not the smoothest engine transmission, but a very beautiful interior and exterior, and a little bit of pizzazz, just enough to show that the Audi kind of wanted to stand out a little bit with the A3. And I think a lot of buyers in this class who aren't going to bother stepping up to something like a Q3 or a small crossover of some sorts, I think they'd be pretty happy with this. So thank you all so much for watching. As I said, if you do want to see more on the A3, check the links in the description. We've got that Bang & Olufsen sound system test, highway fuel economy test, and I think we've got a members only sound test for this as well. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.